TIL American author Washington Irving lied when he said Christopher Columbus sailed the world in a bid to prove it wasn't flat. The truth is that flat Earth has not been a mainstream theory since at least 600 BC. In the 1400s, almost everybody would have known the Earth was round. It made a better story, much like him coming up with the Washington cherry tree myth. I thought he was trying to find an alternate route to India. I don't remember any of my school lessons inferring they thought the Earth was flat. I don't know how it is over there in the US, but here in Dominican Republic, first country to be colonized in the American continent, we were always taught that he took the trip because the Earth is round. They wanted to find a new trade route to the Indias since the fall of Constantinople. I might be mixing up historical events here, and theorizing that he could sail to the other side. He took travel and ended up in the New World, which he didn't know was in between. So what I'm trying to say is, this is basic knowledge. Almost everybody would have known the Earth was round. 2020 enters the chat. Every time this gets brought up on Reddit, I get flashbacks to the time I did a project in high school on Renaissance music and mentioned this offhand as a fun fact, and my music teacher was adamant that no one knew the Earth was round. I even had sources on my slideshow, but he didn't care. Washington Irving was a professional bullshitter. Invented probably the first viral marketing campaign ever with his History of New York. If you look up paintings of popes of the history, you will see they all have a globe with a cross on top in their hands, meaning everyone obviously knew the world was round the whole time. It was some recent American books, 1800 maybe, that says that in the medieval age they believed the Earth was flat. In the medieval age people were smarter than now, I think. Yet it was actually to find a faster route to India for spice trade. That's why Americans call the Native American tribes Indians, because Columbus thought he landed in India, so it stuck when he brought news back to Spain. I don't believe in flat earthers. They don't actually believe what they claim to, and nobody can convince me otherwise. Seriously, I think this is the best approach to dealing with them. They use denial as a weapon. Fire it right back. Not just round, but most educated people knew the size of the Earth as well, roughly 24,000 mile circumference. They knew that if you sailed far enough, eventually you will hit Asia. The problem was that it was an incredibly far way to sail. Ships could only go so far away from land before running out of food, water, and supplies. It was suicide to attempt to go that way. Columbus knew the world was round, but he theorized that it wasn't a sphere. He thought it was more pear-shaped and parts of it were narrower than others. He thought if he sailed right, he could make it to Asia faster than people previously thought. Of course he was wrong, but lucky for him he fell ass backwards into a previously unknown continent. Columbus didn't discover the American continent. There were millions of people already living there, and Europeans like Leif Erikson had already visited parts centuries before. It's also theorized that African and Polynesian societies landed on America also. What Columbus did that was so important was that he made knowledge of this continent mainstream information to European society and opened trade routes. He's still an important historical figure. Is it enough to celebrate him with statues and a holiday? No fucking way. The guy was a crazy person who lucked out at not dying in the ocean and became a genocidal asshole. One could argue that history would be brighter if almost anyone else discovered America. Fuck that guy. Bonus fun fact, Columbus promised a lifetime pension to whoever first spotted land. On October 12, 1492, Rodrigo de Triana spotted land and alerted the rest of the crew. Columbus then said that he saw that land the day before and just didn't tell anyone. De Triana never got his pension. Best way to describe it is, if people didn't know the Earth had a curvature, why would the crow's nest, lookout, be on the highest point of a ship? Even basic sailors knew that the higher you are the further you see. I understand not everyone can link this to curvature, but to think most people don't is just an insult to the intelligence of your ancestors. Around 240 BC, Eratosthenes even calculated the diameter of the Earth with amazing accuracy. But what would Irving Washington say about it? You would think that would be true even more so today, but here we are, but did they have Facebook to share the wisdom of their distant uncle who knew the truth? So flat Earth was disproved 600 years before Christ, and yet there are still far too many idiots who believe it today. How do we get through to them? Imagine being dumber than people who lived in 600 BC. Deleted. Rip Van Winkle and the legend of Sleepy Hollow are historically accurate though right. Except for a few dumb shits today that believe it's flat despite being debunked repeatedly. I tell ya, flat earthers are trolling you. I get the antivirus thing, but there is no part of the flat earth thing that makes any sense. It's got to be a big freaking troll. What interesting about Columbus is that he thought the earth was like 2/3 the size that people believed it was, and that the Pacific was a lot smaller. Had the Americas not been there, he and his crew would have starved to death long before they made it to Asia. And there's probably more flat earthers now than there were total people in 600 BC. During the Enlightenment it was en vogue to diss religion, even if your facts were sh*t. Examples of this are stuff like 9 million witches were burned at the stake during the Dark Ages. In reality the Dark Ages saw a ban on witch hunts led by Karl the Great. The witch hunt people are referring to happened around the early modern period, 15th to 18th century. Actual number of victims is impossible to tell, but estimates put it around 30 to 150,000 victims. If it were in the several millions, Europe would have literally ran out of women. Witch hunts charged men as well as women, and burning at the stake was not the universally preferred method of execution. Galileo was burned at the stake for saying the earth was round. Galileo died of old age in a mansion under house arrest. The model in question was heliocentrism, Earth revolving around the Sun rather than being at the center, discovered by Copernicus. The new pope was sympathetic to Galileo and gave him a chance to present this controversial theory. In the book he placed the pope as the idiot character. In fact, Galileo's argumentative temper helped in the banning of the Copernican model, a fact that Galileo himself considered an achievement. Heliocentrism was later proved in the 18th, but by that point the church's opposition to the model had faded. Then social media happened and, boom! Flat. Welcome to 2020, where the flat earth theory is alive and well, here on the crazy interwebs. Considering some of the stupid shit people believe in 2020 AD. It's not hard to imagine though. 600 BC. Being the end of mainstream flat earth belief seems impossible. In the 1400s, almost everybody would have known the earth was round. Till modern day flat earthers are less intelligent than 15th century peasants. For me, that particular myth was never taught because America-centric education is, in fact, America-centric, with nothing about what actually caused Columbus's voyage, just how it affected where the US would be in particular. Not a single thing about the Spanish Empire and the spice trade and how those created the world today. No, my education has one question: is it about the US? If no, they don't give a shit. If yes, they'll focus an entire semester on it. Be wary of anyone that thinks in absolutes about things from 600 years ago. The only way people know anything from that time is if they read what an educated person wrote down in a book. They have no idea what illiterate people or educated non-writers thought. Well, yes, the whole flat earth part falls apart when Columbus' entire theory was he could reach the Indies by sailing due west from Spain. He was looking for a more direct route to the East Indies, which would only be possible if he thought the earth was round.